I know. You know, I say you need kids to do it.
Yes, yes.
How are you? You have the license.
We can travel there.
We're going to go ahead and get started here. You can just find your seats. Got a full house tonight, it's really good. Welcome everybody to the June 4th, 2024 West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors meeting. We're going to begin our meeting tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please stand. I will tell you, it is not every night that we have this kind of crowd at these meetings, and especially filled with so many men and women of uniform. So thank you so much for being here. I love starting out meetings this way. And so the first item on our agenda tonight is going to be the promotion of Officer David Spigarelli to the rank of Sergeant within the West Goshen Township Police Department. And I'm going to hand it over to Chief Carroll.
Thank you very much. It is one of our favorite occasions to do a promotion here, and we appreciate the board's help in doing this. Dave Spigarelli came to our department in 2003. He came from the Chester County Sheriff's Department. We served there for 10 years. He was in our patrol division until moving into the Juvenile Community Relations Division in 2020. As a member of that unit, he has contact with the youth of our community on a daily basis, and he's part of our overall plan to reconnect the youth with the police department in hopes of having a good partnership as things move into the future. Dave is accompanied tonight by his wife Christine and his sons Nathan and Lucas, and Lucas is going to hold the Bible for him. We're fortunate enough tonight to have the Honorable Deborah Ryan here to perform the ceremony for us. She's always been a friend of the West Goshen Police Department. We appreciate her taking the time to come out. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. Come on up here, sir. Before I start, Judge Gosh wanted me to relay some words because he couldn't be here. Unfortunately, he wanted to be here. He wants you to know how commendable he believes everything you do in the police department is. You are compassionate with the people that you serve. You are upstanding in your citizenry and in your ways in which you model yourself for not just students, but he even said for adults. And he sends his regrets. He wishes that he could have been here but he believes that you're very well deserving of this promotion, as do I. So I'm very honored to be here to swear you in this evening. So raise your right hand, put your hand on the Bible, and repeat after me. I, David C. Spigarelli, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and that I will enforce the laws of this Commonwealth and the ordinances of West Goshen, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. I do further swear that I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law without consideration to a person's race, color, sex, religious creed, sexual orientation, age, national origin, ancestry, handicap, or disability. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Does that conclude our ceremony?
It does, thank you.
Okay, Sergeant Spigarelli, thank you so much. As the Honorable Deb Ryan so eloquently said, we here in West Goshen Township appreciate everything that you do, as well as all the officers that are within our township. So thank you very much. If you would like to take some pictures, do you want to take a couple minutes, or do you want to go out into the lobby? It's up to you. Outside?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much. Congratulations. We'll give you guys a couple minutes to make your way outside. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we are going to continue our meeting, and thank you to my board. They pointed out that I missed an agenda item, which is item number 2, pointing out that meetings may be recorded by third parties. And I also like to let people know that we have copies of the agenda in the back, and that our meeting is also being live streamed on YouTube. And with that, we move on to item number 4, which is public comment. Is there anybody here today that would like to make a public comment about something that is not on tonight's agenda? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I've never realized meetings were this exciting. I've lived on here once before. You may remember me. My name was Sal Frisco. I was here a few months ago. I was at the last minute. I was told about, I don't know if it was the solar PV or the EV charging station issue, but I'm the subject matter expert in the subject, and again, we can get into credentials later. But I was brought to my attention that the matter of I guess the saldo associated with the EV charging station is still an issue that is of consideration. Last time I was here, there was quite an open understanding of what EV ready was going to be for essentially all the new construction when you really boil down to it. And I believe even amongst the board itself, there was a range from, it's a conduit, a piece of, and a piece of wall all the way through to an existing charging station, such that I guess it was shelved, sent back to the Planning Commission, which then essentially considered it. And as my understanding, recently the Planning Commission, I guess gave their opinion on the matter. And it is my understanding that the Planning Commission believes in, and mind you, I believe last time around I should maybe, full disclosure, I make money in the industry of green energy, so solar, putting in charging stations, subject matter expert as much as part of my job, and I should have actually prefaced that, so excuse me. But it was my understanding that the Planning Commission 8-1 said that they encourage but do not want to mandate the saldo, okay? So, and I understand now it's back in front of the board here, who would still seriously consider it, making it a mandate as part of the local ordinance for subdivisions. So I guess my question would be to the board, after considering what the Planning Commission is saying, with the absence, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the absence of any outcry from the public in general, which I assume that's what we're all here to serve, and I guess without any factual I guess, and mind you, I'm an engineer first, so please, I'm actually hurting my own business here. As an engineer first, with the factual backing behind that there is some benefit associated with the idea of EVs. And again, don't get me wrong, I like them, I will probably own one when I finish my house. But that being said, it's facts first. Why do we want to mandate? Okay, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, if I misrepresented anything, and if it's just being done for political expediency, that's fine. So be it, but what, why?
So it's not being done for political reasons, I'll tell you that much.
I understand that, but
So what's your question?
So the question is, if it is, why is it seriously be considered as a mandate?
Okay, so I don't like the word mandate, and that's not actually what I think this is.
Do tell.
So we had many conversations about, everything's broken up either into zoning or into the saldo, and I'm sure you're aware of that.
Not much.
Not much,
I'm
okay.
learning, but I'm learning. That's just
So one of the reasons that we chose, which we did have the choice, one of the reasons that we chose to put this into the saldo was because it would give us and whatever developers were to come before us the opportunity to waive the requirements for the EV charging installation, should they deem it necessary and request that.
Okay.
If it had been put in the zoning, then I think it would be what you are calling a mandate, because they really wouldn't have a choice, they'd have to comply with it. This, I think, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the board, but my understanding is that this, putting it into the saldo, is going to give us the ability to have that in there to begin with for whatever developer were to approach us. They're going to have to meet these conditions, and then they're going to have to make their case as to why they don't want to, or why they think they can't, or why it's not important. A lot of developers that we see come before us don't even know that that's something that they might even want to do, or that their constituents might like, or the people that are going to be renting their lots, or that their customers or their employees will need. And so it just recently happened. We had a conversation with a developer who wanted to put in a few houses, and we requested, hey, can you do this? And they said, absolutely, no problem at all.
Oh, I think it's very marketable. Is the wording yet to be, if you will, put together that then says, we're suggesting, we're open to, we can waive, but the word demand, mandate, require.
There's nothing that says demand.
Well, no, I understand, and that's all. Again, I'm 11th hour, just like whatever when I visited you folks a couple of months ago, say, hey, give your opinion on this. Don't get me wrong, it's a good idea if the market bears it and people want it. I get it, but the testimony I gave was, I know what it will cost. Between, I'm going to put a conduit, which I see all the time, the conduit to get, here's a car in the garage, and there's the electrical box over there. It's very expensive to get a wire from here to there if there's not a way to get it. One wonderful idea to say, let's make it accommodating. The flip side of that is, if it's in any way, shape, or form the impression is given that, well, you must make this house, this structure, this whatever, EV ready, meaning that is that I have had to do something to the electrical distribution system to upgrade it to accommodate, the 40, 50, or 60 amps, and there's different, NEC and NFPA regulations associated with those sizes. That's very extraordinary. It's an extraordinarily expensive thing. So I just want to make sure that, and again, as
Are you implying that the commercial developers are going to think it's too expensive to put a conduit in their property?
oh, no, if it's a conduit, it's one thing, but that's the point. Unless the wording is clear, that, hey, we're recommending this, and it's a matter of having access, that's one thing. But some of the documentation that, and again, I could be wrong, okay? Some of the documentation I was seeing was saying that it's still fuzzy about what EV ready is. So are we formulating that?
Yeah, so maybe I can help. So
Sure, please do so.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've moved along.
And I don't have my glasses on.
So I'm Mr. Walsh, Sean Walsh.
Oh, thank you.
So we've moved along with this.
Yeah.
Since you last attended the meeting,
Mhm.
it's been updated. It's actually back with the Planning Commission
Oh,
at
it
this
is?
point, Chester County.
Okay.
It's going to be on our agenda on June next meeting or the following meeting.
It's probably going to be your first meeting in July. It has to go to the County Planning Commission, which I believe it's done. They have 30 days in which to issue
Okay,
comments.
so-
and it'll have to
okay,
go back
Probably
to
the first meeting in July, which unfortunately is July 3rd, so you may or may not be in town, but I
Um,
encourage you to,
no,
that
like
that is the
vacation,
meeting
something
time.
like that.
If you can come to that meeting, you'll see the final version that we're going to act
Okay.
on. It's absolutely the former of what you just stated. It's
Mhm.
not a mandate in terms of electrical system for a homeowner or a new developer to put in something to accommodate EVs. There's no requirement for that. It's simply the former, which is what you suggested, which is to run an
Access.
appropriate raceway or conduit with no pulling of wiring or terminations at either end. It's just
Well,
to make it very simple for a new homeowner in a new build to be able to do it. And there's no burden at all on existing residents to do anything.
Well, then it'll actually help my business.
So if you could come and support it,
Oh, I
you will
will.
love that.
So at the planning, so that will be discussed at the next planning commission meeting, if I understand that correctly, the language or the details associated with that?
Yeah, it has to go back to your planning commission as
In
well.
June or?
June 11th.
June
June
11th. Okay,
Just one other point, you mentioned the planning commission's vote. We also have a sustainability committee, which
Right.
was the genesis of this whole movement.
Right.
So they've got an equal voice into the board in terms of what they think would be beneficial to the township. So we listen to all our committees and boards, and we ultimately try to make sure we've accommodated most
would they
people.
like any help on the sustainability committee? I've been doing this like 30 years. They want anybody? I got to volunteer at a time.
Yeah.
That's.
You have to be a resident of the township, so I don't know if you're here yet, but
Well, I'm a business resident of the township. Does that count?
I don't think so.
No?
You can't serve on a board if you're a business?
I don't know,
I
I
think
mean,
you can.
I own a piece of property on the other side of Greystone, and, we'll own a home in the.
I don't know, do we have any vacancies?
No. But we're delighted that you're interested, and we hope you can move to West Goshen. And
Oh, I'm moving to West Goshen,
Awesome.
it's in the works, it's one year, so you'll be
and the
stopped.
first step will be, hey, come on in July and support the. what
Well,
we're
I'll
trying
come
do.
to the June 11th plan, June 11th, did you say it's here?
Yes.
And what time?
7 p.m.
7 p.m., okay, I'll write that down, and then the first meeting in July 3rd at 6 p.m.
Second.
Second.
A second.
If I remember correctly, I think you're the one who made the suggestion, just make it a raceway.
That's why I said make it a conduit,
Just make it a
because
raceway.
the biggest non-component cost, meaning the biggest labor cost is, well, it's nice when you have electrical distribution in the garage, like yesterday
Sure.
was, and the other time it's on the other side of the goddamn house, and it is very expensive, from
Very
carpentry and everything else. Very good, well, I appreciate your input, thank you for answering my questions, and I'll ball leave until the second, okay?
Great.
Very
Thank
good,
you.
thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Yes, Dr. White.
Good evening, everyone. Doug White, West Goshen. I just wanted to mention Thursday is a very important day in our anniversary in our country. It's the 80th anniversary of Operation Overlord, D-Day. And all the ones who fought and died for our country to achieve victory over the Nazis. May they rest in peace. I just wanted to say that it's very important. They saved our civilization in a lot of ways. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments tonight? Nope, okay. Moving on to item number 5, which is the public hearing of ordinance number 6-2024, which is convenience stores. Do you want me to hand it over to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So this is a proposed amendment to the township zoning ordinance, and anytime we do that, we have to follow the state law requirements, procedural requirements before the board can consider this amendment. So I'm just going to go through the different steps, and I've marked these as board exhibits that will then appear in the minutes. The first is tonight's hearing had to be advertised for 2 consecutive weeks in the Daily Local News. We did that on May 21st and May 28th, 2024. The second is we had to send a copy of the full ordinance for public inspection, both to the law library as well as the Daily Local, and I did that through an email on May 17th, 2024. The third is that because it's an amendment to zoning, we have to send it to the Chester County Planning Commission. We did that and they came back with a review letter on April 24th, 2024. We made slight revisions in response to that letter and they sent a subsequent letter on May 28th, 2024. So both of those letters we did receive. And then last, your Township Planning Commission had to review this ordinance. They did that at their meeting on May 14th, 2024, and they recommended that the board adopt the ordinance. So those are the procedural requirements to show that we met them. This is a change, fairly small in scope. Right now, you're allowed in the C1 and the C5 zoning districts a convenience store. The definition of a convenience store today includes the retail sale of gasoline. So what the board decided to do is to separate out a convenience store that doesn't have the retail sale of gasoline and a retail store that, a convenience store that does have the retail sale of gas. Recognizing that the implications or the impacts of those two different scenarios are different. So the board is changing, creating two different definitions. Changing for the C1 district, you would now only be permitted to have a convenience store without the retail sale of fuel. And then in the C5 district, still keep it that you can have both convenience store with and convenience store without. We also then proposed an amendment to the standards that are specific to convenience stores, and those are found in section 84-5712. We had to separate it out to two different subparagraphs because some of the provisions only dealt with the sale of automotive fuel. So now it's basically the same standards, slight changes, but now there's basically two paragraphs to differentiate between the two different uses. The same change was made with respect to the parking section, which is 84-55I2. Currently today it just says convenience store, and we need to make sure that both uses were accounted for. So that's in a nutshell what the ordinance does.
Okay, so I was a little confused earlier, and so I called Chris because I wanted to be sure. So they are permitted, convenience stores are only permitted by conditional use in C1 and C5. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And they're not permitted by right anywhere in the township?
No.
No. And the other addition in here was under B7, which is new. Section 4B7, which is adding that all ingress and egress, or I'm sorry, a convenience store with a retail sale of automotive fuel shall have two means of access points from a public roadway. That's a new addition, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so does the board have any comments or questions on this ordinance?
Was there any comment from the planning commission when this was reviewed by them?
And they supported it, they approved it.
With no recommended changes?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 6-2024?
So,
Second.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any public comment on this motion? Yes, Dr. White.
So one concern we had was if you do this, then it'll make the Wawa at Green Hill Road non-conforming, and can that be a problem when you make it Christmas chicken?
No, I mean, it just means they have the right to continue the use as it was built and developed. And there are actually provisions in the ordinance that deal with expansion rights. That, you know, it recognizes that they have the lawful, you know, it's actually a constitutionally protected right that you can't take away the right to have that use that's already was built when it was lawful. So I don't see that as a problem.
So this is for any new
Yes.
proposal in a C1.
Yes, that's correct.
And Madam Chair, just to do a quick double check of our code, and it is only permitted by conditional use in C1 and C5.
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments? No, hearing none. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes 4-0. Okay, moving on to item number 6, which is a continued discussion regarding a proposed amendment to Chapter 57, Park and Recreation Areas of the West Goshen Township Code of Ordinances and possible authorization to advertise. So we discussed this at our May, I'm looking at the notes here, 22nd meeting?
Correct.
Correct.
And we went over some of the language that we wanted included. Kristen, do you want to?
Sure. So I think, was it your Park and Recreation Commission had a suggestion to add language about if somebody who had received a park permit violated your rules, that if they applied in the future, that they shouldn't be permitted to get the permit again. So we looked at other ordinances actually from various municipalities and counties, and I did find some language that we added to it. I also, in just looking at chapter 57, specifically 57-3, which is the requirement to obtain the permit and has all the rules, there really wasn't anything that specifically said that a fee had to be paid. So I suggested here, there's 4 new subparagraphs that we've added to 57-3. The first one is that they have to pay the applicable permit application fee and security deposit, and that the amount of those fees would be determined by a fee resolution by the board. And then this is the other thing. I think that right now, I'm not certain that all the fees are being paid prior to the issuance or the approval of the application. So that paragraph is added, or that sentence is added. The next paragraph 4, the practice has been that people that get a permit or approval to use the parks are signing an indemnification agreement, but there's no reference made to that in chapter 57. So that's why we added paragraph 4, just to follow the actual practice of what's happening today. And that's basically saying they're assuming their own risks, they're holding you, they're not holding you responsible or liable for injuries that occur on the park. So that's just putting into the actual ordinance format the process that you're following. And then 5 is that you have the right to revoke permit or refuse to issue future permits to organizations or individuals who fail to comply with the rules, any conditions issues with the permit, or also refuse to issue future permits if people have caused damage to the park or property in the park, created an unreasonable disturbance to others using the park, or have created a threat to the public health, safety, and general welfare. I recognize that some of that language is broad, and that there will be, as I mentioned to Ken and Chris when we were talking about this language, there really is going to have to be good documentation of, for example, if an event occurs and there's a lot of bad things that happen, there's a lot of violations of the rules, there's a lot of property damage, that has to be well documented. And that has to be something that a year from then or the next time that that organization comes back, I even suggested that you don't outright say, no, we're not going to issue the permit. You have a dialogue, which I think Chris and Ken said that they do. And they're going to have to impress upon that organization that things didn't go so well this first time around, and sort of have that conversation to see whether they get a level of confidence that this organization knows that it did things wrong and would make amends or put protective measures in place. And then at that point in time, it's not an issue that you just say, nope, not going to allow the permit.
Is this your language, or did this come from somewhere else?
Well, it's my language, but I pulled from various sources.
So other places have
language
this.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. And I'm happy to share. I can send to you. There's 4 or 5 that I found. I looked at some larger organizations. Montgomery County was one. The city of Philadelphia was one. So I did find this language, but then I pulled it all together, and I wanted there to be multiple reasons. So that's what 5 does. And then 6 is, again, making sure that it's very clear that if damage is caused to the park, that damage is something that organization must pay for.
For item number 5, if I can ask, is there a legal concern here that if the township just willy-nilly, if I can use that term, said no to an organization to use the park, was there an issue there about the right to assemble?
Yeah, there is. That's what I was concerned
Can you
about.
expound on that a little bit?
Well, I don't want it to be that, and I'm not suggesting this would happen, but I don't even want there to be the appearance that you're denying a permit because you don't like the message that the organization is going to convey, or the type of event that it is. That it's people have the right to free speech and right to free assembly, and you can't discriminate because of the content of the message. So that's why I wanted to have those standards that have to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis.
So you're making it clear because you're using the word may here, not you shall.
Right.
May, so there would be a conversation between Parks and Rec and this organization about issues that may have occurred in the past and what retroactive action they're going to, or what remediation action they're going to take so it wouldn't happen again in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one thing, like, I serve on this organization's board, and the board has completely changed over in 2 years. So the executive director is different, all the board members are different. You know, just because we have the same organization name, but it may be that people that were responsible for the events that occurred and the issues that occurred are no longer even part of the organization. And so I would want you to be able to evaluate.
With dialogue, you
With
would
dialogue,
be able to
yeah.
evaluate it. There was a major change in
Right.
players. Okay.
Kristen, you know if this language in 5 is that you've taken from other municipalities or elsewhere, has it ever been challenged to your knowledge and failed and found to be?
I did not do case law research on the issue of whether organization who was denied a permit challenged. I did not go that far into researching it.
And if I could throw this out to Ken, and not to put you on the spot, but if we pass this ordinance tonight, what effect might it have upon charitable organizations being able to use our parks? Would it have a chilling effect, do you think, or not?
I don't think so. I mean, I can only think of one instance in the past 20 years where there was a group that had done enough damage where we said, no, don't come back. So I can't see how this would have any major effect on things.
Okay.
Ken, will this clarity here make your job easier in navigating the permit application process? You've got some clearer guidelines here now than you had before. Do you support this?
Yes, I do. I want to thank Kristen Camp for her work on this because she brought it up to speed in terms of what we're already doing.
Yeah.
And how we did have to make a couple changes to the things that we're doing, but getting it all here in the ordinance, as well as doing the research as to the language that will protect ourselves. As she emphasized, the key will be if there is to be any action taken, and it's not just banning a group from the future, but also if we need to charge people for damages, documentation is going to have to be the key. That would include photo documentation as well as written documentation.
Are you doing that now?
Yeah.
You are? Okay. All right, so you guys are comfortable with this language? Yeah? Okay.
So we haven't advertised it yet, so it'd have to be advertised for your next meeting.
Do we need a motion to advertise?
You typically do that, yeah.
Somebody want to make a motion then to advertise this?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any comment or question on the motion? Hearing none.
I should add one last question for Ken.
Yeah.
So just in terms of your ability to manage this process smoothly with police input, we're not doing anything here that makes it harder for you to together assess the application and determine the level of police involvement or not, right? It's the same as it is right now.
No. I forget. The question as to the police involvement, where would that be?
That's still in the second section. We haven't changed any of that language.
Yeah. So again, what this would do is just make it more automatic. Right
Okay.
now, if there were things that I felt were a traffic concern, I would get them in touch with Sergeant Greiser. But now it would be not just if the road is closed, but if it's 300 more people, I would get them in touch as well.
I think the one change, Ken, I thought was that if there was police presence needed, they weren't being required to pay that up front. But now the way this is worded,
That's the one fee that was paid afterwards, because the police would bill them afterwards.
but the way this is worded now, the last sentence says the fee for police security shall be paid in full prior to approval of the permit.
Correct.
Is that, are you able to do that?
I don't handle that fee at all. That doesn't come across.
Yeah,
my
that does
desk.
come from the police directly, but they should handle that if that's what's in there.
Right, and so that there has to be that coordination between you, because I think the way this is worded is that if it's 300 or more, you're going to identify and get the police involved to say, well, looking at these criteria here, the size of the event, where it's being held, what else is happening, what time of day, you and the police are going to determine how much police presence is needed. You should be having a dialogue with them on then how much it's going to cost. And before the permit is issued or the application is approved, you should be getting that payment up front.
Right, so I would certainly coordinate with the police department up front. And then what I could do is hold the approval of the permit until they pay the police as well as paying us.
Yeah, let's do that. And also cashing their security deposit before you issue the permit.
Possibly.
Yeah, depositing.
I just would feel more comfortable clearing that with Christine first to make sure that she's okay with the procedures.
Seems good.
She'll make it work.
Okay. So we had a motion, we had a second. Public comment? Nothing? Okay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes 4-0.
So this will be on your June 18th agenda.
Okay, great. And I don't know if you need to stay any longer?
I do just want to say something on the next one real quick, is that the Borough of Westchester has decided that it would like to take a closer look at the temporary housing application and is going to hire separate counsel. So that's why this is on there. I can't represent one or the other. So, and I apologize for that. That doesn't usually happen. I will say that I did speak to Brian Nagel again this afternoon because Chris wanted to make sure that he's still planning to go forward on June 26th, which was the hearing date set. He is intending to go back to the borough, and because he had explained the application to them in 2023 when there was a different council president, and he left that meeting thinking there was no issue. So it's his intention to go back to the council and explain what it's about, and hopefully once he explains and answers their questions, he's hoping that they change that opinion. So just want to let you know that there may be, I told him that he needed to get in touch with Chris by the end of this week because notices have to be sent and the ads have to be placed. But
When is he meeting with them?
he's hoping to meet with them this week. So
Is that a public meeting or are they just going to meet?
no, it's not going to be the full council. It's going to be certain members of their council. So he's still intending to go back to the council, explain it in more detail, and potentially the borough will change its opinion. I don't know that for certain, but I just wanted to throw that out there that this is sort of a evolving application, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, so this is item number 7, which is the possible appointment of conflict counsel for the conditional use application for Westchester University. I know that our board has talked for some time about appointing a conflict counsel anyway, just in the case, in the event that something like this would happen. And so we've done our due diligence, I think, on our end to seek out appropriate counsel for things like this. And so tonight, we are going to consider the appointment of Ryan Jennings, Esquire, from the firm of Unruh, Turner, Burke & Fries as our conflict counsel, particularly to handle this conditional use application filed by Westchester University for the temporary modular housing. Chris, did you want to add anything else?
No, Madam Chair. So Mr. Jennings currently serves as the solicitor for the sewer authority. There is no conflict that exists with him serving as conflict counsel for this board in this matter. He's going to bill us at the exact same rate that Ms. Camp bills us at. And he also ran a conflict check, which confirmed that he has no conflicts with this matter.
Okay. Does the board have any questions or?
So just one thing, that knowing how sometimes these conversations drag out, and there's a deadline here for this conditional use hearing, what happens if it's still undetermined as to whether the borough will oppose it or not, and we need to get to the point of using legal resources to advertise and all the rest of it? What do we do in that situation? We just decide to go with alternate counsel?
He's going to let Chris know one way or the other by the end of this week whether the June 26th date is something he's going to push. I have a feeling he's going to give you an extension of time to hold the hearing.
Okay.
And so really you wouldn't have to expend any money with Mr. Jennings if you appoint him until you find out for sure that the hearing is going forward and that the borough is in fact going to participate.
Okay, if the borough does not participate, you can continue to represent us in the conditional use hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So then I guess we need a motion. For
I'll
the
make the
appointment.
motion to appoint Mr. Jennings as alternate counsel for these situations.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walsh. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Woolman. Is there any comment or questions? Yes.
Yeah, so maybe I missed something here.
Mhm.
The borough is opposing the modular housing?
Right now, they are wanting to send counsel just to monitor it and potentially oppose or have conditions. But Mr. Nagel feels that they don't fully understand the application. He's not presented it to the full council. So he's going to go back and try to have an internal meeting with the president to see if he can alleviate whatever concerns they have. Don't know if that's going to work or not, but he's going to give that a shot.
I have a quick question. What gives the borough party status?
Well, that's something the board would have to decide. I mean, as an adjoining, if they own property in close proximity, they as anybody else would have right? I mean,
The borough as a body?
yeah, the borough as a body. I mean, it'd be no different than when you, I'm trying to think of a case that you guys have got involved in.
We got involved in the warehouse construction on Baltimore
Yeah.
Street.
So you typically would grant to another municipality that their border is right there and potentially could be impacted by the use. I think that but that'll be something that, you know, the board will have to ponder and decide. It's not, a foregone conclusion, but in most cases like this, you would expect that you would grant them party status.
Okay.
And at least hear their concerns. It may not be that you know, it doesn't sway you one way or the other, or it doesn't cause you to want to impose a condition, but at least they have a seat at the table to let you know how they believe that the use will impact them and their residents.
Sure, okay. Yes. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yes, Dr. White, did you have a question?
Well, is this for the housing behind the Bull Center that's
Yes.
proposed? And this is the borough, not the, okay. I keep thinking that the borough is a university, you gotta separate.
I know, there's so many of us floating around in that spot. Sorry. Okay. So we had a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none. Motion carries 4-0.
So I'm going to excuse myself now.
Yes, all right, thank you very much. Okay, so moving on to item number 8, which is the possible awarding of bids for the property of West Goshen Township listed for sale. Mr. Bayshore, I'm going to turn this over to you.
All right. Madam Chair, before the board this evening is awarding of the bids for property owned by West Goshen Township. The board authorized the sale of these items at the April 18, 2024 meeting. The items authorized for sale were listed on Municipid from May 1st, 2024 to May 29th, 2024, and we conducted public inspections on May 14th and May 21st at the Township Municipal Complex, and we also posted information regarding the items for sale on the Township website. We listed, I believe, 20 items for sale. In reviewing the results, the total sale amount of all items was $131,970. All the required buyer's fees for each item have been paid by the winning bidders. But I will note that the monitors and office chairs that were authorized for sale received no bids. And we're just recommending at the next e-waste event to get rid of to discard the monitors appropriately. They really don't have much use, they're pretty old. I did provide information from our mechanic, John Weddy, showing the estimated value as well as the bid amounts that were for each item. Generally speaking, we were pretty close on most of the items. Some were over, some were right in the middle, some were a little bit lower. But I think overall we did pretty good with the sale of items. I listed all the items for sale as well as all the winning bid amounts and the number of bids that were received for each item.
Okay, thank you. No, I agree. I think we got a good price for most of the things on here. What about the number 10 under Parks Department, the tailgate spreader?
So the tailgate spreader was two items. So the information is up under number 7 under the Roads Department. So that was 2 items. So the bid amount for both of those items listed there was $341.
Okay.
I'm impressed, you got 48 bids for that dance floor.
Okay, I have to tell a story about the dance floor since you brought it up. So we could not figure out how to price that. So John and I said, let's start it at $100. And we figure, all right, whatever we make is gravy. So that was the last item closing on the bid, and it just kept going and going and going until it got up to, and the person who won that was the first person to contact us after everything closed.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
All joking aside, the one item on here, the 2014 Ford, which was won by Center Township, which is out near Pittsburgh for $28,000. We have the plow equipment. It's a Boss plow. We no longer use those. And John's recommendation to me was that we just include it with the vehicle so that they can utilize it appropriately.
Seems like a good idea.
And it's helping out another municipality.
Exactly.
Can we use that equipment in any way?
We cannot. We don't use that equipment anymore.
Is there any chance of donating the office chairs to a charitable organization?
Restore will.
We could.
Restore will take the chairs.
We could.
What's Restore?
The Habitats Humanity Restores. There's one in Phoenixville and there's one in Thorndale. They will not take
like chairs, table chairs, unless you bring the table, they love office chairs, but that's sell pretty quickly.
We can certainly reach out to
As
them.
long as they're not ripped,
That's
they're
what
not
we'd like to
ripped, are they?
We also have a West Goshen charity that I like to tap first. That's the Westchester Warehouse, Community Warehouse Project of Westchester.
Or Schrammett.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll take office chairs. I don't know what they accept, but yeah, maybe that's a really good idea.
I'm happy to contact any organization who will take them off our hands.
Most shop organizations, it's the space that kills them, so those two restores I mentioned are pretty large.
Okay.
I have picture, and we can ask them in the interim, because I don't think the UA's event is until the fall. We can ask them in the interim if they're interested in the monitors as well. So if you provide me with their contact information, I'm happy to reach out to them.
Yeah, let's do it. That's a really good idea, Nate. Okay.
I just have a couple of questions too.
Yes, what's your question?
So I was looking at the roads department items, and item number 2 and number 3 didn't meet the lower value of John Reddy's estimated range. I noticed that one of them is a 2016 Ford F-350 crew cab pickup, and there's one in the parks department that did meet its value in terms of being within the estimated range. So I presume that's a little bit more beat up, the 2016?
That's correct. And then we actually got, regarding item number 3, the 2017 Explorer, we got opinions on that from dealers, and they said to expect it to come in below the value because the market on Explorers is so saturated.
Yeah.
So that's probably why it was lower than what was estimated.
But neither of those vehicles are worth more than this on trade-in, in our opinion, because I know we may be purchasing other vehicles that we could trade these in.
No, we don't think we do much better than this.
Aren't trade-ins typically lower?
Correct. I asked John that exact.
Yeah.
I asked John that exact same question when these closed.
I mean, they're not far off the minimums, but there's $3,000 in one case and $1,500 in another. So
Was the mileage, was it beat up or was it like high mileage or something? Do you know?
I believe it's a combination of both.
Both. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, we do tend to take pretty good care of our equipment,
yeah.
so we get pretty good value for things.
So just remind me, I mean, this is a bid. We don't have to accept each bid. We don't have to actually accept the winning bid, right? We could reject it and return the buyers.
You could, in theory, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But
I think we did it once on some.
We did it once recently because they hadn't paid their buyer's fee and we got burned by that previously.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to get burned. The board didn't want to get burned a second time.
Yeah.
But in this case, we do not have any of those issues.
Okay.
Okay. So then is there a motion to, let's see, what would the motion be?
So, Madam Chair, the motion would be to award the bids for the items authorized for sale as listed as outlined in my memo to the board dated June 4th, 2024.
All right, wonderful. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that.
I'll second.
All right, thanks very much. Is there any public comment or questions?
How much the bid floor went for?
$1,261.
And it was just sitting, where was the dance
It
floor?
was sitting in the Parks building for like 20 years.
Probably somebody got me clearing up.
I know.
What, are you in the market for a dance
No,
hall?
not at all. He started the story with 50 building up and he never said.
So it started at $100 and it kept going, and like within, I'm gonna say a span of maybe 15 minutes, it went from $625 to $1,261.
Probably was still market.
I know.
Okay,
Imagine buying a new one, yeah.
I get emails whenever there's a new bid placed, and my phone just kept going off.
Wow. Okay. I'm sorry, we had a motion and a second. Any public comment? No? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries 4-0. Item number 9, discussion and possible adoption of resolution number 20-2024, authorizing the submission of multimodal transportation fund program grant application for storm sewer and pedestrian improvements on Montgomery Avenue to the Commonwealth Financing Authority. Mr. Bayshore, why don't you introduce this?
Madam Chair, before the board this evening is proposed resolution number 2024. This resolution would authorize the submission of a multimodal transportation fund program grant application to the Commonwealth Financing Authority and authorize certain officials to execute the appropriate documents associated with the application. The application would propose certain improvements to Montgomery Avenue in order to address the ongoing flooding issues, as well as other associated transportation improvements. At the board meeting on April 18th, the board approved a proposal from Carroll Engineering for the preparation and submission of proposed application. The application would seek up to $3 million, which is the maximum award permitted under the program. But I would note that there is a 30% match to the costs. I spoke with Chris Peterson about this, and they haven't finalized the budget yet. But so, as with previous applications, it was just recommended to go forward with the maximum amount. That way we're covered, depending on how it shakes out.
And I know we've talked about this before, but what's the anticipated cost of a project like this? Do we know?
The most recent estimate that I heard was around $1 million.
Yeah. Okay. And so how much did we apply?
We haven't applied it for anything yet. So the application deadline is July 31st.
Okay.
So they're actively working on the application right now, and this is a component of the application.
Okay. All right.
So we can seek funding up to 3 million, even though we only think it's gonna cost $1 million.
Correct.
So, okay, so this
We-
covers that.
We did a resolution in this nature in the fall for one of the local share applications where we put an up to amount as opposed to the
Okay.
actual requested amount.
Now, I know there's been meetings between West Goshen Township and West Chester Borough. What would be the nature of the collaboration between the borough and the township in pursuing this project?
We would most,
Pursuing the grant funding and then also the project.
so we would coordinate with them regarding the project, keep them in the loop on things as it moves forward. In terms of the grant application, I believe we would really only seek like support, like a letter of support or some type of supporting documentation from them.
So talking of support, I mean, this to me, we need to make this application as strong as possible. This is absolutely a great use of this multimodal grant opportunity. So obviously we're going to seek support from our state representatives. We've also had documented lots of vehicles in this flooded situation. It's a critical road for access to the hospital. We have plenty of residents who've experienced the problems over the years. I'm wondering if it's worth trying to solicit on our social media or e-news some comments or support from the public on this, as well as all the other things that Carol will be pulling together for the application.
So we were going to seek support from Good Fellowship Ambulance Company as well as from Chester County Hospital, since it's a main straightaway to both of those organizations. I don't think that's a bad idea. We were going to include pictures, just like we did with other flooding-related applications. And I know Mark has plenty of documentation of the situations that have occurred there.
What about the school district too?
That would be one as well.
And we have police reports as well from incidents that occurred during these flood events.
Yeah, we're going to pull all that information together.
So,
But we can certainly solicit on social media or email.
See why
I don't see a problem doing
having
that.
some residents and businesses support it as well would be great.
couldn't hurt.
Even the McDonald's.
We have a major developer that's affected by this building across the street, Elon Khan. He's affected, because it floods on the other side. That's a road too.
Yeah, affects a lot of people. It's a long time coming, this fix. So, I will make the motion to approve resolution number 20-2024 to apply for the Multimodal Transportation Fund Program for pedestrian improvements on Montgomery Avenue. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment or questions on the motion? Yes, Dr. White.
What's the matching cost?
30%. 30% of the project cost.
Yeah.
Chris, will we see the prepared application or before, I know it's a July deadline, right, to submit it. Will we see it at one of the meetings, or is it just something you will work with Carol on and share with the board, is the final submission?
It would probably just be something I would work with Carol on and then provide the final submission to the board.
Yeah, I mean, if you could give the board a heads up around whether it's all been pulled together, just to make, we've always got some comments here about what we'd like to see included, so, I mean, I personally would like to see it, I'm not necessarily going to have to do anything, but I'd like to know the extent of how good an application it is as it's going in.
I agree, Sean.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item number 10, which is the approval of the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes from May 7th, 2024. Looking through the minutes, does any board member have any major changes that they want to bring to our attention?
I just have two typo/changes, Ashley.
Okay.
It's on, the first one is on page 5, third paragraph, it starts Mr. Walsh. It's actually the second sentence right at the end. Mr. Walsh reviewed the location of the proposed sanitary sewer lateral and the potential conflict with a new gas line, not an existing gas line. And then on page 6, third paragraph, Ms. Smith asked about amending the resolution to include the sewer department. Mr. Bayshall stated that the resolution recognizes, it should say Public Works Department, which includes sewer, not water treatment.
I'm sorry, what is your change? Mr. Bayshore stated that
Stated that the resolution recognizes the Public Works Department
Okay.
instead of water treatment. Those are the only two changes I have.
anything else?
No, and I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 7th.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Any public comment on the meeting minutes from May 7th? Nope. All right, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 4-0. And finally, item number 11 is the approval of the bills to be paid for the general fund, the sewer revenue fund, the waste and recycling fund, and the capital reserve fund. Does anyone on the board have any questions on the bills to be paid from these
I have
funds?
one question. This is on check number 81730. Page number here. But anyway, it's 81730 to Assured Partners. And there are 3 checks, or 3 items, line items, in the amount of $3,347.29, duplicated 3 times, and also under that same check number, there are 2 items that are also the same, $59,884, again duplicated. Can you explain what's going on with that?
So Assured Partners is the broker for the township's property and liability insurance. Those fees are for the renewal of the township's property and liability insurance, and they're broken out based on department as well as based on fund.
So they would be the same amount, but just different departments?
Correct.
Yeah, it also shows up under the prepaid fund for sewer and everything, so it's just a breakdown against the. Because I have one question related to the Vanguard Fund's contributions. So we're right in the midst of transferring those accounts this week. If we authorize these to be paid, are we actually going to submit to Vanguard these contributions, or are you going to hold them, submit them to PNC?
I believe these are from past payroll, so they would already have been submitted to Vanguard.
So they've already been submitted.
And we asked PNC about that today, because we have a pay period this week, and they said to submit them to Vanguard, and then it'll get transferred accordingly. But we're trying to figure out the appropriate transition, because we could send a check to them, and it may not get deposited by June 13th.
Yeah.
So myself and our payroll coordinator and Jen are trying to figure out the appropriate course of action.
Caution against sending the check at this point to Vanguard.
That's what we were talking about today. We asked PNC about that today, and they said just to follow the normal course of action, it'll get transferred. But I don't think they fully understand the delay between when we issue the check and when it gets deposited.
Yeah, it'd be better just to hold on to the check, and then once the new accounts are established, PNC can send it to them. Okay.
Just one last question. There's a number of checks made in for a number of residents for a prorated refund for the 2024 summer team program. What's happening with that? Was the team program shortened, and as a result, they had to do a prorated refund for that? What's going on with that?
I will check into that. I will have to check in and follow up on that.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions, John?
No, that's it.
No? Okay. I'm sorry, was there a motion already? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to
pay
approve the
bill?
bills to be paid this month.
All right.
This week.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment or questions on the bills to be paid? No, hearing none. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 4-0. And would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think we just did
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out tonight.
It's gonna be a record.
It is.
3 years I've been here.
6:58, wow. It was a light agenda. I do want to say thank you for being here, seriously. It means a lot to this board that we have engagement. So thank you.
know what's going on.
Like I said,
We have to sign. Anything to sign? We'll see you tomorrow, 11:30, right?
Yeah, right.
Over at Concur.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds like you've got it.
Yeah. I'll show you what, it's kind of red line too, so, I'll show you the plan from May. It's mainly just consists of changing the requirement for a single family to just a raceway, no winery, something like that.
Okay.
A few other kind of like.
Makes it easier for Brian to navigate.
Yeah, and, just looking at what's happening.